Have you ever seen something in nature so strange, it stayed with you for years? A beast too big to hide, a shadow in the jungle, a splash in the dark ocean. Most people dismiss these as legends, but sometimes they leave behind bones. In the cold forests of prehistoric South America, something massive once walked on four legs. A creature so big and powerful, early humans might have mistaken it for a god. We're talking about Arctotherium angustidens, better known as the giant short-faced bear. It stood over 11 feet tall when upright and weighed more than 300 pounds, heavier than a modern-day bison. In indigenous legends, people spoke of a monster bear that could crush bones with a single swipe and shake the ground with its steps. They called it a spirit of vengeance, something you never wanted to see in the wild. Here's the reality. This wasn't just the largest bear ever discovered. It may have been one of the most dominant land predators in Earth's history. Its fossils were found alongside the remains of large prey, horses, camels, even other predators. Its bite force? Powerful enough to split through pelvis bones. And it didn't scavenge, it hunted. Some scientists believe its size was a direct result of competition with other megafauna, forcing it to grow stronger, faster, and more aggressive. Its front legs were unusually long, giving it a forward-leaning, menacing stance. Now imagine seeing that in the mist, standing upright, roaring louder than any beast alive today. The myth of a godlike forest bear wasn't just fear, it was memory, passed down from those who survived an encounter and never forgot. Before we continue with the next creature, I've got a quick challenge for you. Which one of these beasts would you never want to face in real life? Drop your answer in the comments. And while you're there, hit like and subscribe. That way, you won't miss the monsters still to come. Alright, let's go darker. Long before dinosaurs ruled the Earth, the oceans were home to something even more alien. Meet Cyclopes rhenanae, the sea scorpion. It wasn't the size of your hand, it was the size of a grown man. Stretching up to 8 feet long, with claws like spears and armor-plated limbs, this predator was a nightmare beneath the waves. It hunted anything smaller than itself, fish, other arthropods, and maybe even early vertebrates. Ancient cultures near lakes and rivers often warned children about giant water demons that would grab your legs and pull you under. Some even carved strange, multi-limbed creatures into stone. For centuries, these stories were considered fantasy, but then paleontologists unearthed fossilized claws so large they mistook them for dinosaur bones. The sea scorpion was real and terrifying. Unlike modern scorpions, it wasn't limited to land. It used its paddled limbs to swim with speed and precision. Its eyesight was excellent, with large compound eyes, and its pincers were designed not just to catch, but to crush. Imagine standing ankle-deep in what you think is a calm lake, unaware that a multi-legged predator is stalking the shallows, waiting to strike. In today's oceans, nothing like it remains, but its fossils tell a clear story. This creature wasn't rare, it dominated, and if something that massive once hid beneath the surface, it begs the question, what else might still be out there, hiding in the dark? Deep in the Amazon rainforest, where daylight barely breaks through the canopy, something enormous lurks beneath fallen logs and tangled roots, the Titan beetle. Growing up to 6.5 inches long, about the length of your hand. It's one of the largest insects alive today, but its size isn't what terrifies locals. It's the sound. When threatened, the Titan beetle lets out a sharp hiss, like steam escaping from a pipe, and its mandibles? Sharp and strong enough to snap a pencil in half. There are reports of it biting through wood, and even piercing human skin. In some jungle legends, the beetle was feared as a forest demon, a creature with metal jaws that attacked at night, ripping into tents and flesh. Guides would tell travelers to never sleep near rotting wood, not because of snakes, but because of this. And while modern science doesn't confirm those horror stories, the facts are disturbing enough. Titan beetles don't eat as adults. Their only goal is to mate. They spend most of their life underground as larvae, possibly for years, before surfacing to breed and die. That means for most of their lives, they're growing, hidden, and waiting. Researchers still haven't found a single living larva, not one. So, what does a Titan beetle larva look like? Across ancient Europe, stories spread of antlered spirits roaming the misty hills, towering creatures with glowing eyes and bone-like crowns stretching wide across the sky. They weren't just imagination. The Irish giant deer, Megaloceros giganteus, once roamed from Ireland to Siberia. It stood over 7 feet at the shoulder, but its most jaw-dropping feature was its antlers, spanning up to 12 feet wide, each one weighing as much as a small child. To early humans, this was no ordinary animal. Cave art shows detailed depictions of massive deer-like beasts, surrounded by symbols and fire. Some believed they were forest gods, others omens of death. But these creatures weren't spirits, they were real. Their bones have been found in peat bogs, lakes, and meadows. In Ireland especially, fossil discoveries sparked legends of a fallen king of the wild, its antlers rising from the soil like a crown lost in time. Despite their size, these deer weren't predators. They grazed, migrated, and likely used their antlers for dominance battles, crashing into rivals during mating season. But those antlers, while majestic, may have led to their downfall. Some scientists believe climate shifts made dense forests harder to navigate. Giant antlers got caught, movement slowed, mating became difficult, and slowly, the kings of the plains disappeared, but not from memory. Even today, tales of ghost deer and antlered giants persist in Irish and Celtic folklore, not just because of fear, but because some images are too powerful to forget. A silent figure, horns spread wide against the fog, watching. When people think of crocodiles, they imagine murky rivers, snapping jaws, and slow ambushes. But in ancient Australia, there was something far worse. A crocodile that didn't wait in water, it ran on land. Meet Quincana forterostrum. Unlike modern crocs, this prehistoric predator had long, powerful legs, sharp serrated teeth, and lived mostly on dry ground. It could reach up to 20 feet in length, and was built for speed, not stealth. In Aboriginal legends, there are stories of monstrous lizards that chased people across open land, dragging prey into dens and leaving behind only bones. These weren't exaggerations, they were warnings. Quincana didn't just bite, it tore. Its teeth were curved and blade-like, capable of slicing through muscle and tendon. Unlike its modern relatives, it didn't rely on the element of surprise. It pursued. Fossils of Quincana have been found in caves, dry riverbeds, and open woodland areas, far from the swamps we associate with crocodiles. Centuries ago, sailors described winged creatures soaring just above the ocean, darting through fog, vanishing into waves. They called them sea dragons, storm birds, or ghost fish, but they weren't hallucinating. Prehistoric oceans were home to massive ancestors of today's flying fish, gliders with extended fins that let them break the water's surface and travel impressive distances through the air. Modern flying fish already look surreal, but their ancient relatives? Larger, faster, and far more capable of staying airborne. Some species had elongated pectoral and pelvic fins, giving them a four-winged appearance, like birds of the sea. These creatures evolved flight as an escape, dodging predators like early sharks and marine reptiles. Fossils show wear patterns on their fin bones, indicating repeated gliding and collisions with the water's surface. And here's the twist. Even today, flying fish are rarely captured on film in full flight. They move fast, glide unpredictably, and vanish as quickly as they appear, preserving that sense of mystery. The myth of ocean birds with scales wasn't a mistake. It was a brief glance at. Evolution in motion, misunderstood, exaggerated, and passed into legend. Because when something flies out of the water like a ghost and disappears before you blink, in the icy waters of the North Pacific, early explorers told stories of sea beasts as long as boats, creatures that glided silently beneath the waves, so large they looked like floating islands. They weren't mermaids. And they weren't whales, they were real. Hydrodamylus gigas, better known as Steller's sea cow, was a marine mammal that could reach 30 feet in length and weigh over 10 tons. It was a cousin of the manatee, but on an entirely different scale. When Georg Wilhelm Steller first described it in 1741, he called it a sea monster. With thick, wrinkled skin and no teeth, it fed peacefully on kelp, moving in slow, synchronized groups. It had no fear of humans, no natural predators, and no defenses. That made it easy to kill. In just 27 years after its discovery, the Steller's sea cow was hunted to extinction. Harpoons, spears, and knives wiped it from existence. One of the largest marine mammals to live in modern history, vanished before most of the world even knew it existed. But long before European contact, indigenous peoples in the Bering Sea region had legends of gentle giants that helped fishermen, nudged boats, or guided lost hunters back to shore. In South American folklore, there are stories of forest spirits, huge, slow-moving beasts that rip trees from the ground, block rivers, and vanish without a trace. Their footprints were too big to match any known animal. Locals called them ghosts of the jungle, but they weren't ghosts. They were sloths, massive ones. Megatherium americanum, the giant ground sloth, stood over 12 feet tall and weighed as much as a modern elephant. It wasn't like the sleepy tree dwellers we know today. This was a muscular, heavy-built creature that walked on all fours, stood upright to feed, and used its huge claws to pull down branches or defend itself. Its bones were first discovered in the late 1700s, shocking the scientific world. But long before that, indigenous tribes feared what they called the slow giants. Their warnings weren't superstition. Fossil remains have been found with markings that suggest direct interaction with early humans, even wounds from stone weapons. It's easy to laugh at old stories, flying monsters, giant bugs, land crocodiles, but look closer and you'll see the patterns. Fear shapes memory, memory shapes myth, and myths, it turns out, don't come from nowhere. So the question isn't whether these creatures ever existed, it's how many more are still hiding in the forgotten corners of time. Which of these creatures would you fear the most if it returned today? Tell me in the comments. I'm always reading. If you love this kind of dark history and forgotten creatures, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So you're here when the next legend comes back to life.